with Pivot, it's really been learning more about myself and finding my healthy adult. And it really has felt more so like not just making sure that everything's good right now, but staying on like a positive upward trajectory, you know.
Hi there, and welcome to the Healthy Adult Podcast. I am Lori Jean Glass, the CEO of Pivot, and today I am super excited to have a chat with one of our alumni, Izzy. So welcome, Izzy.
Hi, thank you so much. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it was so fun. I got a call from your coach, Kayla, and she's like, "Hey man, I have a client that has pivoted like no other." And her name is Izzy, and I would love for you to chat with her about her journey with working the pivot process. So I'm super excited to have that convo with you. And the other thing I love is I know that you are currently a junior. Are you finishing your junior year, or where are you?
Just started yesterday was the first day of my junior year. So yeah,
Wow, very cool. Congratulations. And
thank you.
it's always so near and dear to my heart when we get individuals coming to our brand that are your age. When I look at the power of pivot and being able to help someone like yourself understand their developmental parts at such a young age, it's so empowering. I was just shy of 40 when I started my personal growth work, and I love that you're here, and I can't wait to hear from you. So I'll be quiet
Oh, thank
and
you.
jump in and ask you a few questions. But what an inspiration you are. And I'm
Oh,
excited about some people your age that really need pivot will relate to you.
well, thank you for those words. I feel I feel lucky to be able to access a resource like Pivot. It has been so wonderful this past year. It's only been a year, which is crazy when we go into what the year has looked like and where I am now versus 12 months ago. But no, I feel lucky, and it's been wonderful. Pivot is a very unique coaching experience, at least from mine. So it's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Would you mind sharing a little bit about why pivot? How'd you
Why
how'd you
pivot?
how'd you get here, and what were you for? And
Oh man, so my best friend used Pivot. She started in high school, so even earlier than I did, and always had spoke so highly of it. And the coaching and the modules that we do when you're really kind of doing hands-on work, looking through your old habitual patterns, parts of self, and what these really look like is something that is of interest to me in general. But I was in a tougher spot last summer and was really wanting to dive into some more hands-on therapy work. And so I was talking to my best friend and decided to make the phone call. And Kayla was on the intake call, and we ended up matching together. So that's how I found out about it. And then it's taken, of course, my own course, with the journey. But it's been great.
I love that. I love that. So when you came, were you just like we get a lot of kids in college with a lot of anxiety. I think, it just naturally goes hand in hand with the college experience. But
Absolutely.
sometimes it's very, very, destabilizing. What was it primarily? Was it just like wanting to get healthier inside with your own mental health? Was there like a crisis situation, or whatever you're comfortable sharing? Like, I'm just curious.
Right. No, thank you. Yeah,
Mhm.
so I am one that likes to put everything on their plate at once, and I'm a strong person, but eventually I cannot carry it all. And I kind of put myself in that place last summer and was on top of sort of immediate kind of things around me, my day to day. I also had gone through a pretty tumultuous first year of college, and then the year prior, my parents were divorced. So there were a lot of big
Oh,
things that I hadn't been able to really sit down and take time to to work through. And then also the day to day, I really do value therapy so much. I'm a total advocate for it. And, it helps me just get my ducks in a row, try to stay on the right track. And then with Pivot, it's really been learning more about myself and finding my healthy adult. And it really has felt more so like not just making sure that everything's good right now, but staying on like a positive upward trajectory. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. Definitely. That relationship with that higher self that we talk about, just being able to
Absolutely.
strive and drive towards that. I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I understand that you have a story around your athletic journey.
Yes, I do.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I mean,
Wi
you probably aren't going, well, I don't know. I don't know you well enough yet, but I do know that you are a very accomplished swimmer. And
Yes,
I know
ma'am.
that journey that you've been through to uncover, your relationship with your athleticism is a big one.
Absolutely. It
Mm.
has been, and, I would you like me to share it now?
Yeah,
Get into it?
jump
Okay.
in. Yeah.
Yes, well, Kayla was a swimmer as well, and there was an initial connection there. Last summer, I hit a point with the sport that I'd never hit before. I'd been doing it for about a decade at that point, and was on the collegiate team here at UVA, and um, I was coming off of again a really hard first year in all aspects, really, athletically and personally. Yeah, transition to college is hard, but I hit a point last summer that I had never hit before, and that was really just unsure of if I wanted to continue my sport. And I don't believe swimming's ever been my full identity, but it's what I dedicated myself to for my entire adolescence. It's really all that I knew, and it meant and still means so much to me. But I was so unhappy. I was burnt out to an extent that I hadn't been before, and was really like, I don't know where to go from here. And I remember that conversation with Kayla quite well last summer, and we were really just trying to figure out, okay, what is the mindset shift here going into my second year of college that that will help the longevity of my career. And for me, that looked like really breaking it down to the day to day and in the moment, not not looking about 6 months ahead, 2 months ahead, or even a week ahead, but the practice that I'm going to. What can I do to connect with the people that I'm with, be present in the moment, um, just really be there, make the most of it there. And it when you're able to do that, break anything down in life, I think it becomes a lot more tangible, right? So it was really that tangibility that I was looking for, and also wanting to seek the joy of the sport again. And for me, that's always come from the relationships with my teammates and my coaches. And so that was the plan. And I worked with Kayla with that, and then my parents and my coaches as well. And I had a great second year, much better than first year, and academic or athletically, it went pretty much as well as it could have, and I achieved all of my goals this past year, which was so incredible and surreal. And I ended up making qualifying for the NCAA, D1 championship, and was a part of the national championship winning team. And to be there on deck and compete at that level, and swimming's so individual, so it's really like I did this, I achieved this. It was just so surreal, and an experience that I will never ever forget. And then later in the spring, I qualified for the Olympic trials, and my main event, which was 100 backstroke, and that's been a goal since 2020. That Olympic cycle. But this past kind of year and a half, it's been this looming uh, goal that just there was a weight on my shoulders. I felt quite buried by it, but I made trials and competed in June. Had won a best time, jumped 40 spots or something. It was a really, really great race at trials, and not to mention just a once in a lifetime experience and the culmination of my entire, swimming career.
Mhm.
But afterwards, took a break from the pool, which was not my initial plan. I was going to continue to train, but when I took that break pretty quickly, um, I realized that a longer break was necessary and that I needed my mind and my body and my spirit to just rest. And I granted that to myself, and it didn't take a lot because, breaks are awesome. But
Mhm.
quickly, also, I was reflection just kind of naturally started to happen. And to speed up kind of the past 8 weeks, I ended up with, through lots of conversation with family, friends, and Kayla, decided to step away from the sport because despite everything and being a successful elite athlete, being a part of the best collegiate team in the NCAA, one of the best collegiate teams in the NCAA history,
Mhm.
achieving all my goals, I wasn't fulfilled, and it was something that I couldn't deny myself of. I very much knew that I wasn't fulfilled. It was just a matter of what do I want to do and where do I want to go, and I was really able to just kind of break it down. There are so many layers to the decision, making the decision, but it's, is are the reasons for me staying, are they intrinsic or are they extrinsic? And a lot of them were extrinsic. And then me, trying to step into healthy adult, it's like, okay, not the that's not the reason for making this decision, right? It should be the intrinsic reasons to stay. Okay, so then what does it look like if I were to pivot and choose to make the choice not to swim anymore? And um, for me, it's like more the ability to just kind of be
Mhm.
with the people here at UVA and the environment around me, but also be with myself and honor myself. And I think that's really what I've learned is that I deserve to honor myself, and everyone does, and but also we all deserve to be happy. And in this time away from the pool, it was like just it was a rest, and an ease kind of seeped in that I haven't felt in a very long time. And um, making the decision though, and when I finally admitted to myself, I was driving. I just visited my brother where he lives. I was driving home, and I was sort of like I was filled up from this visit with my brother. I felt love, I felt gratitude, and I realized that I don't drive away from many things feeling that way. And I was like, that this is what I want to do. This means something to me. And then it was immediate, just sobs. 2.5 hours home. I was sobbing the whole time, talking out loud to myself. I mean, if anyone had seen me driving, I looked like a crazy person, but it's okay. Like I needed to get it out. And but I was like, I think this is the decision that I want to make, but I was so scared. I
Yeah.
was kind of role playing. We talk about role playing sometimes. I was role playing what this conversation might look like with both of my coaches, and um, it it was hard to to picture because it really was not a decision that I ever thought that I would make until my fourth year when I was graduating as a student athlete here at UVA. And but I yeah, and then more thoughts, and it became obvious and clear to me that this was the decision that I wanted to make. And I also had set a few months prior. I was in a tough spot with swimming and kind of thinking, do I want to continue? Ultimately, decided to at that time. But what I said to myself then was, okay, if life ever happens and you are making this choice, I just hope that you, speaking of my future self, are at peace with it, and um, that you're able to do it on your own terms because the sport has given me so much. I mean, truly some of the greatest relationships of my life and experiences. And I never wanted to resent the sport. I never wanted to resent myself for staying in the sport. It just has given me too much, and it means too much to me. So when I realized that I did feel that way about this decision was when I it's like, okay, it's time to step away and talk to my coaches and talk to my team. And I did that 2 weeks ago, I guess, at this point. And the conversations went incredibly well. But again, this is like, I think through some of the work with Pivot, I was able to have this mindset going in, but it was like, I know that this is the healthy decision for me. It's the right decision for me. It was not made in a rash manner. Um, and if these conversations don't go well, then I, again, respect and honor myself enough to see that and realize that, oh, it's certainly the right choice if that's the case. But my coaches are incredible, and they were so validating and acknowledging and ultimately really supportive and happy for me, as was my team. So it really, I feel so lucky. I feel so grateful. And the past couple of weeks as a swimmer have been great. I'm sort of just like free and figuring it all out. The school starting, got have a little more, stability and schedule, but
Mhm.
I've really enjoyed this process of sort of getting to know myself um, without swimming, and getting to know my body without swimming, and everything. So yeah, it's been awesome. But
Wow.
a big, I mean, if Kayla, I don't know if uh, I'm gonna pull you in here, but if I had said that, in a year you wouldn't be swimming anymore, last summer, I wouldn't have believed, I wouldn't have been able to see it. It really just felt, even 8 weeks ago, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to take that step. But yeah,
Yeah, well, you took it. You took
I
it. Yeah, you
took
took
it. Here we are. Yeah.
it. Thank you for like describing all that. And there's so much more I want to ask about it, right? Like I would imagine that in the course of that, especially you said something early on that, your parents got divorced just a
Hmm.
couple of years ago. Did I hear that right?
Yes,
Yeah.
January of 2022.
Yeah. And so I would imagine, I'm curious, like, was that on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard was that for you?
Oh my
Zero,
gosh. Well,
zero being no pain and 10 being great pain. Where would you put yourself?
oh man. I mean, if I place myself back in January of 2022, it was a 10. It was truly I'd never experienced heartbreak before, and that's what it was. And
Yeah.
but I think very quickly I kind of surrendered, or I was in a state of shock and grief for,
Mhm,
honestly, I think about 2 years. I
mhm,
January of this past year, I
mhm.
sort of felt like I'd woken up a little bit. There was a shift, and
Okay.
what I thought was that maybe stepping out of the shock.
Mhm.
Um, I yeah. So the initial pain was excruciating. And
I
then
asked
it's been a
because oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I still certainly feel like I'm in the grieving process, and there is so much to navigate with what that means and looks like for a family that had been together. I mean, for me, it was 18 years, and
Yeah.
then for it to change, you know, irrevocably. It's yeah.
It's a big change. I asked the question because when you were talking about preparing for the conversations with your coach and your team, it almost feels like you're asking for a divorce.
Mm,
There's this connection that you have, especially with the team, because of the team spirit and the connection. I'm not a swimmer, but I am familiar with sports, and
mhm,
that connection that you make and the support you give to one another, and the family system that's created as a result of that, the dependency, the leadership, all of it. I would imagine that you making this decision on the heels of going through something in a much deeper level that profoundly shifted the core of who you are and your what you knew family to be, that takes a pretty strong healthy adult. I mean, I am so proud of you that you were
oh,
able to really take a look at that and still choose yourself and go, what do I need, what do I want, where am I going? Because your story is really one of inspiration.
mm,
That it's not about, you hear so many times where people, the perception is that people just quote give up unquote, and I don't get one bit of that from you. There's nothing in your energy. It was not about giving up. It was about giving in and surrendering to yourself, to be able to go and live and be and do the way that you felt was congruent with your own soul. It was like, I know this is right for me. And you gave it time, you gave it energy, you talked with Kayla, I'm sure you talked with other people you're close to,
Mhm.
and really sat with yourself. And I love the visual of you driving home from that conversation with seeing your brother, and the connection
Yeah.
you have, and how you felt, and knowing you needed to follow this pull, this intuition, this internal hit that was driving you to
Mhm.
make this important decision. So you get my gold medal.
Thank you so much for saying all of that, truly.
Yeah.
To your point about the relationship, how it's sort of a divorce, it's my personal relationship with the sport, and it's also the team and the community that I'm involved with here. And I certainly don't use the word quit. It's the closing of a chapter and, putting that book on the shelf. Maybe
Mhm.
it's the closing of a book is probably more accurate with 10 years of my life, but on the shelf. And, with what you mentioned about family and the support system. And it's like, I knew that I couldn't stay in if I wasn't there 100%. The sport demands too much, and it's all consuming. The lifestyle as a D1 athlete is as well. And if
Mhm.
you're not there 100%, it's not gonna click. It's not gonna work, and someone's gonna have to give. And it's like, okay, what is it worth the give? Like, what am I losing? Or yeah,
Yeah. And that's well said, because that is what we hear a lot when couples are looking at dismounting from a relationship or a marriage. So
mhm.
it's interesting how this came full circle for you. And I would imagine you probably have maybe a little more understanding, or maybe a little bit more empathy for what your parents must have gone through.
This is actually not something that we've talked about, Kayla, but those thoughts have come through. I
Mm,
Yeah, the divorce is still something that's not super easy for me to talk about.
mm,
But with your point, I think there would be a little bit of pride I'd have to swallow to admit, like, yes, there is some new gained perspective, and I'm an empathetic person, but again, a lot to work through with the divorce. But I'm
yeah.
like, yes, yeah, everyone deserves to be happy, and staying in a place where you are unhappy and unfulfilled is not sustainable, and it's not what, life is too short,
Mm,
truly. Yeah.
yeah.
um
Yeah. What are you studying?
I am in the education school here at UVA in a major called Youth and Social Innovation. So it's education policy and innovation, youth development, leadership, community engagement, whole bunch of things. But it's really at the intersection of a lot of my academic interests. And I don't know what I'd like to do when I'm older, but I want to work with people and help people. So I
Mm,
think this major really sets me up to have a good, I hope to just gain a comprehensive understanding of kind of the issues that youth and greater communities face, and um, kind of acquire a toolbox of approaches for how to fix, these issues, or work
mhm.
with people. Yeah, I don't know, but I've really enjoyed it. The classes are awesome, and I had my second day of classes today, so I've seen them all and they look good. And we'll
Uh,
see that it's the School of Education and Human Development, and it is a phenomenal school here at UVA. And professors are great and caring people, and it's a lot more personable, which is something that I value highly. So
uh-huh. Oh, wow. That sounds so interesting. I want to go.
come on, come back to the East Coast, right?
No, I
Oh,
love that. Oh my gosh, you're such a light. There's a bright
oh,
future there in helping others, and creating, environments where people can actually learn like you did, like you
yeah.
are. And I think that's so cool. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to see where it takes me. And I think with departure from swimming, my hope is that I'll be able to dive deeper into my studies. I'll have
Mhm.
more time, more energy, and yeah, really maybe kickstart something that I wasn't kickstart as in, with connections or networking, something that I wasn't able to do before, just with the simple lack of time. But
Yeah,
yeah, I'm looking
yeah.
forward to it.
What do you do with your workout now?
Good question. And this is a new journey. It's a new journey. And
Yeah,
I
I would
mentioned a little.
imagine that's a lot. When I think of swimming, and again, keep in mind I was not one, I'm not a swimmer. But I do know when I get in a pool, I often think how this is hard.
It's so hard.
So hard. Like,
It's so hard.
I'll go pickleball, please. I don't
I'll
that's
pickle with you now.
that's
Um,
but I'm just curious,
yes,
like, is your body, I would imagine that your body was very, very much used to being very in the
yeah,
water, working out, all the hours of training, like,
totally. I was very regulated by it physically, yes, but also mentally. And
mhm,
I'd say it's probably been 6 or 7 years of this like very highly elite level training.
mhm,
In high school, it was 4:30 wake ups every day. I did that for 5 years for a 2 hour practice before school, and then a handful of days after school, I'd be back at the gym um, for like a dry land. So, like starting quite young, it was full dedication to a very high level. And when you get to college, it's a whole nother level. And we were training 20 hours a week and 9 practices a week. And it's sort of, I always would, when we would get in these like periods of rest, I always thought that they were harder than when we were actually in season or in this full swing of things. Because when you're in the full swing of things, it's kind of like a shift to autopilot, which is also something that I think we try to work through. Was like, I don't want to be on autopilot. I want to be there fully, but regardless, you sort of have to maintain that rigor of
yeah.
lifestyle, but you just put your head down and you go. And it really, I mean, there's something very addicting about it as well, and fulfilling. And I want to make a note that there were so many moments of fulfillment and joy, and but it was just not maybe the type of fulfillment that I was looking for. But
Mhm.
yeah, so turning off, even if I did exercise 20 hours a week still, I don't think I'd be able to replicate that intensity. So it's like, okay, there's going to be a shift. It's going to be dynamic. And I've recently, so whole perspective was a big thing for making this decision. We were looking at the whole perspective for what it'd look like if I stayed swimming, and whole perspective if I made the shift. And we're looking at the physical sort of sector of this, and it's your physical body, your health, whatnot, and physical time. And with staying with swimming, I'm like, yes, I'm so physically healthy, right? I'm strong, whatever. But no, excuse me. Uh, there's a lack of time, right? Like that's kind of a loss in that sector. But
Mhm.
now, okay, the sector in this new like transition period, it's okay. I still really value staying physically healthy, and it helps my mental health as well. But so that is of importance. But now I have all this extra physical time, so it's like, how is that gonna what am I gonna do with that? But I've been trying out all different gyms around Charlottesville. I'm from Charlottesville,
Oh,
but have always swam, so I just was on a club team and I was on the team here, and don't really know what all is out here. So I've been doing cycling and yoga and like metabolic classes. Really just trying to see, okay, what feels best for my body? Do I like the community? Also financially, back to the whole perspective. There's the financial section. What works for me there? So it's a journey that I'm currently in. I'm going to yoga after this. I've really enjoyed it.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, I can't say that I know what it'll look like, but I can say that working through it currently. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, that's so interesting. I asked the question because I was thinking about how it's so similar to just a primary relationship where sometimes people get in autopilot and the relationship connection is based on intensity, not intimacy. So
Okay,
there's
sure, yeah.
intensity around raising the kids, going to work, making dinner, doing what you're doing, having two jobs, whatever the storyline is. There's just life takes on a life of itself outside
Mhm.
of the relationship, and so then sometimes there's a tangle there in trying to create intimacy, to slow down. And I don't mean just sexual intimacy, I'm talking about just emotional intimacy, just that
Right.
mindfulness that you were talking about when we first started chatting, today,
Mhm.
about this mindfulness that you're so much more aware of now, about who you are and where you are and what are your surroundings, and how do I feel about all this, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
absolutely, all of
like
it.
that with relationships, where that intensity, you were in it physically, but you were also in it intellectually. Just the spirit of the sport and the competition of the sport and the intellect that is required in order to have the precision you need to be at the level you were in the sport. All of that, plays into it. So
Yeah,
that's a great way to talk about it and look at it, you know.
totally, yeah. Thank you,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's a whole bunch of things.
Mhm. Speaking of relationships, are you in one?
I'm not in a relationship.
Okay.
Right now, I'd say I'm in a relationship with myself. I'm in a relationship, like, with this new lifestyle, what's it gonna look
I
like?
love
But,
it.
yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, that is very healthy adult.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not gonna force anything. If it's not there, it's there, it's there. But then it's like, if I want it, do I go get it? It's kind of, I'm like an ambivalent state. I don't know. But um, yeah, I was in a relationship last fall. Kaylin was all about it. But
Mhm.
it didn't feel right for me, and I stepped away, and that was definitely the healthy adult decision. And
Mhm.
it was short lived, but that's all it needed to be. So it's all
Mhm.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. Aw. So what's next? We have a little more time here. Like you're just finding you and going to
Yeah.
classes and
It's I really feel like I'm in such a unique and privileged spot right now because, I still have 2 years left of college where you're able to really it's so accepted to try everything and still fail, and you've got the guardrails up, on either side, which is awesome. I am someone who likes to try everything, and I just feel like there's an abundance of opportunities in front of me, and I really just I want to make the most of my final 2 years and set myself up to do something that feels good and feels right after my 4th year when I graduate. But I want to continue to cultivate. I recently completed the 30-day happiness challenge, which was awesome, went really well, and this idea of cultivating, I think, is something that I've really sort of tried to step into and maybe cultivate on its own. It's like really making it a part of my life and um, yeah, cultivating peace or happiness or um, great people around me, a space, whatever it is. I think cultivating is something that I'm working with right now. And um,
so you did
again,
30 days.
did 30 days, yeah,
That's so
and
awesome.
oh, it was great. We entered. She introduced it to me right before I left for a trip to Europe, and so that the majority of the challenge was done in Europe, which of course, like, is gonna be awesome to begin with. But I think I mean, that trip meant and means so much to me for so many different reasons. But I think it really allowed me to slow down and take it all in a way that even if I had like I was going into the trip with very intentional like purposes, but I think it helped to a few greater degrees. It was yeah, it was great. My favorite part was probably either savoring or my favorite part of the day because it was just fun to write down because like yeah, great favorite parts of like every day.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know. I just yeah, I want to continue to work on myself and um my relationships with people. Hopefully, like the my relationships with my parents with the divorce. I hope to have more time and energy commit, try to work through. It's important, and
Is it
um,
just you and your brother, or do you have more siblings?
just the two of us. He turns 23 on Friday, so he's about 2.5 years older than I am. Yeah,
You're the baby?
I'm the baby. I'm
Oh,
the baby, and he is a phenomenal. Are you the baby?
uh-huh.
Yeah, there we go. Yes.
Yeah.
I wouldn't trade it. But except I think it'd be fun to have more siblings. It just adds more dynamic, right? But yeah, no, we're pretty like mom, dad, older brother, younger sister. It feels like a very picturesque kind of like, a family, but
Mhm.
um yeah, but I wanted to mention this throughout as I was describing this journey with swimming and this decision that I made, but um looking into like circle boundaries and attachment styles, I really tried to be cognizant, I guess, of my inners and my close, and also simmies, in making this decision. And it was like, okay, maybe there are some simmies whose I do appreciate like their time, or sometimes their opinions, right? But it's like, okay, in making this decision, am I gonna weigh a semi's like perspective on it and their ideas higher than a closer? I guess it would really just would be close. um and then it was like that helped me really kind of sift through, because there were so many thoughts and so many feelings, and
Mhm.
the circle boundaries really helped me sift through it all, and pull out what I the advice that I wanted to like honor more, or that I would hold more closely to my heart, which was very helpful. And that was like, um my parents, and my closest friends, and Kayla, as well as like, yeah,
Mhm.
um people who know me better. And the circle boundaries are awesome. I really enjoyed learning. That was like one of the first modules last year. They're great. And then also with like attachment styles, it was, wanting to make this decision out of in a secure spot.
Mhm.
But it started with reflecting on what sort of relationship or attachment I had to swimming. And what would I say? Maybe ambivalence with
Mhm.
swimming. I'm not sure, but with the decision itself, it was certainly a state of ambivalence. It's like I back and forth of not knowing if I can step into it, or needing to like make that decision right away. It was,
Mhm.
um, yeah, very much a state of ambivalence. But I think I can ultimately say that I made it from a secure place, and I think for me that was described as like a feeling of peace, but I think it could also parallel to security.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so circle boundaries and attachment styles are two that I've held close,
Mhm.
over the past year, as I've learned them and tried to um, use them use them in my day to day. Yeah.
I love that. Thanks for that plug. Yeah. It's
No, I
it's
mean it's
it's
great.
it's a real game changer for a lot of people. And
Absolutely.
I always say that's why when we started talking, I was sharing about how I love it when, people your age do pivot because gosh, could you imagine if everybody uses circle boundaries? We could just be cordial to people that we don't really can't or won't have a relationship with, but just keep it chill.
Yeah, keep it chill, and also like don't put as much pressure on it, right? It's
Yeah.
like when, for me, it's okay when I identify them as a simi, and it's not even like a label like here you're a simi, that's all you are, but it's just in my head. It's keeping that internal peace. I think it's has helped me. Um, it's funny. So again, my best friend started when she was 15, and once
Started
I went
started
started
pivot.
pivot,
I
yes,
think
to
I know her. I think she worked with a coach by Lori, named Lori also.
Okay, I actually texted her before this, and I was like, "Was your coach Lori Jean?" Because she would always refer to her as Lori, but
Yeah.
she didn't text back, so I actually wasn't sure if you were,
Yeah,
and
it was
you knew her like full well as I'm talking about it, but it's totally fine. No, I mean, she would talk to me a lot about pivot, and it was super funny when I went through the attachment style module.
which
She'd done it years ago,
mhm.
and we then started having conversations about attachment theory, and she is totally defaults like her dominant insecure style is anxious and
Mm,
mine is avoidant, which is
mhm.
like, opposite. And she will text me 6 times, or if I don't text back, she falls into a state of like, oh my God, she hates me. She hates me. Where I'm like,
Yeah.
let's think rationally about this. Okay. Maybe I'm in the water drowning. Okay. And I will respond when I can. I don't hate you. I love you more than anyone. But then for me, my avoidance is like, if things are feeling too overwhelming or complicated or anything with the divorce, like that's really what I mean. That's where I've seen it the most is like that's not there, like another time sort of thing.
Mhm.
But it was funny because we just started having conversations about the modules, like our date, like when we're hanging out on my couch, we're talking
Yeah.
about attachment theory. It's like funny, but yeah,
Love that.
yeah.
Oh, that's so
And
cool.
I mean, to sorry, I'm
Did
gonna.
she
Can I
go
keep
did she
going?
go to college with you?
No, she doesn't. She goes to she went to Tennessee and now goes to LSU.
Oh, cool. So you
Hmm.
guys are friends for a long time.
Yes, we grew up in the same neighborhood and we were in the same first grade class, but have been
Oh,
best friends for the past like 6 years or so. Really, no, she's incredible, and I am so grateful she introduced me to Pivot because like I said, I'm a proponent of therapy and talk openly about mental health and seeking help. And I
mhm,
think our generation is in a better spot than previous generations because there is dialogue about it and the taboo is kind of it's less and therapy is so it's common, it's needed, the demand is so high, but it's a lot more accepted. And on the team, we were very open about mental health and seeking help, and again, a very just open conversation about it, which is I think is so important because so many people struggle silently, and
mhm.
that is, you know, we know sometimes where that ends up, and it's just I think so important to talk about and to seek out. And so this is awesome. I'm so happy to talk to you guys about it. But I've brought some of what I've learned to my other friends, whether or not they wanted to hear it. I'm like, okay, let me talk to you about a whole perspective and making this decision. Yeah, no, but it's just it's so great. And yeah, I you complimented me on being so young and seeking help, but I do think it is so many younger people, and my mom has made similar comments. I'm like, it's just we're in a different spot. We're in a better spot with it in the sense that again, it's less taboo and there are a lot of resources. But then you look at the trends of depression and anxiety, and they're off the charts. They just so. But I don't know. But it's so important, and you guys are doing such good work, and I really appreciate it.
Oh, that's sweet of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well,
Well,
I mean it. It's yeah.
any last thoughts or anything that you'd like to share or bring up before we close
Well, I
today?
wanted to ask you, Lori Jean LJ. I love that. It's like both names are great. Um, what did you study in school, and what led you to creating Pivot?
Oh, that's really sweet of you to ask that question. It's I'll try to give you the Cliff Note answer. you know, I didn't study it in school. I didn't initially. I've done a lot of deep diving and taken a lot of courses and studied a lot, especially around attachment later in life. But in school, I did not study anything related to this. In fact, I didn't really even study because I have severe dyslexia and I had a really hard time reading. I was one of those people that just was kind of making it through. My
Hmm.
college years were right after my mom's suicide, so it was very difficult time for me.
Hmm.
But what years later, what happened is that I had gone too long without really helping make sense of what was happening internally because of trauma and drama that I had been through. A lot of the drama was, self created as a result of not treating the trauma. So, I met a man. He was a therapist. His name was Richard Litfield. Oh, he's no longer with us, but he really helped me understand my developmental parts and my psychology, and something about that work with him led me to meet a woman that was opening up a mental health facility and led me to creating Pivot. I mean, I just sat down and really started to, I loved what you were talking about, slowing down and getting really intentional and mindful about who you are and what you want to do. I had that in my 40s, my late 40s. I had a period of time where I was done living the way I was living. And it's a lot of it's in my book, but I had, I fell down and it went sideways for a while. And then I realized, okay, I do want to live, but if I'm going to live, what's the kind of life I want to live and what do I need? What do I need? And then I started just creating, I created the circle boundaries out of a need to be able to understand how to be relational with people, you know? And
Mhm.
then I created the survival patterns out of a need of trying to make sense of my own developmental parts without feeling, like I loved it when you were saying you were driving in your car after visiting your brother. If anybody would have saw you, they thought you were crazy. Well, that's a line I use all the time. It's like, I know what I'm doing might look crazy, but I'm not crazy. But
You're
oftentimes we look like we're crazy because what we're doing or what we think we're doing that other people don't understand, they don't get. So we're just thrown in that category. So it was it was truly a spiritual calling for me. It was a spiritual calling for me to take the confusion that I was reading and seeing and hearing through multiple tries through different therapeutic processes that led me to create Pivot.
mm, mm. That's wonderful. I mean, you it's the calling, right? Is what you said, and that you stepped into your healthy adult to make the choice to create Pivot, and it's helped so many
Mhm.
people. Wow, that's incredible. I also think that, comparing people's career paths or what they choose, it was much later in your life compared to this the standard or the normal trajectory. But,
Yeah.
you've created something so amazing and incredible.
Mhm.
So, I mean, it's cliche, but I so believe it. It's like it worked out the way it was supposed to.
Yeah.
And oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. You're so welcome. Thank you for being here.
Of course, it's been so fun. I enjoy
No,
talking about this. Thank you guys. Thank you, Kayla, for thinking of me.
yeah. If I make my way back east in your neck of the woods, I'll give you a shout.
Please do. Please do.
Place.
Beautiful. We go for a hike, pickleball. I can bring you to my classes and yeah, Ridley Hall. That's where I am. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, peace be with you, my dear. And
You
yeah, yeah,
Thank you. Well, I hope that we can be in touch and yeah, this is awesome. I'm glad we were able to formally meet.
yeah. Me too. Me too. And say hi to your bestie.
Oh, I will. I will. Yeah, I'll have to tell her to watch this. She's gonna love it. Shout out, you know who you are.
What does she do?
Okay, so she's got a crazy story as well. Also took a pretty healthy adult decision, stepped away from her typical experience at Tennessee and is now online at LSU studying music business and communications and has really, oh my gosh, opened up the doors for herself in a way
She's
that I don't see
a
many
singer.
people our age. She's not a singer, no,
Okay.
but she loves music and will likely end up in Nashville. Like she's someone who, if she says she's gonna do it, she's gonna do it, and I'm gonna fully believe it. I'll sit back, I'll be her biggest cheerleader, and I won't have to do anything. She's just gonna do it for herself, and that's what she's doing. She's having a great time. She's gonna end up graduating a year early, so this spring, and then already has so many connections and incredible internship that she's doing right now. But yeah, no, she's awesome.
I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
she's great.
All right, Izzy. Well, so good to meet you.
Thank you so much. Wonderful to meet you as well, and
Yeah.
we'll hopefully be able to talk again. Let's do
Yes.
it.
I would love that. I would love that.
Awesome.
Thank you. All
Thank you
right.
so much.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye.